Hi, welcome back and Merry Christmas. My name is Greg Pace. I'm an attorney with Malik & Malik. This is my boss, Kip Malik, one of the senior attorneys at our firm. So we have a couple of scenarios today that I wanted to run by Kip to see what he thinks would be the workers' comp issues and other solutions that we might bring if a client came to us with a specific Christmas-related problem. So the first client that I have in mind is, let's say that Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, gets injured on Christmas Day. So just in general, do you think Rudolph, obviously he's not human, if he's getting paid, is Rudolph part of the team? Is Rudolph an employee of Santa? Do you think he has a claim?
Okay, so we got to talk about how long has he worked for Santa Claus.
Okay, yeah, that's my concern as well. If you listen to the song, there's a bunch of reindeer. On one foggy Christmas Eve, Santa then comes to say, Rudolph, with your nose so bright, won't you guide the sleigh tonight? That tells me Rudolph has not been part of the team until that day, right? So is that going to be a concern?
I mean, it would be a concern. Duration of time in employment for somebody is a factor as to whether you're an employee or an independent contractor. It can be like a probative factor.
Okay, but in general, regular employee, everybody accepts first day of the job, you're fine. Bad luck, but you're fine.
Yeah, and the rule is you could work for a second, a minute. Obviously, if you work for a minute, it's not great, but minute, an hour, 10 hours, 10 years, doesn't matter.
Yeah, my worry for Rudolph seems to me like they probably only work one day a year. So even if he's been on the team for a long time, can you be an employee for a job that you do one day a year?
Yeah, you could. The other factor is, are they just like, hey guys, let's go take off? I'm assuming they're doing training runs.
Okay.
And fitness and preparation and all these things and figuring out where they're going to go.
Right. So that's another factor that might be against him, is he probably isn't part of all the prep and the training and the scheduling if he's just being pulled in an hour before takeoff.
Possibly, yeah.
Okay. So I guess Santa's the one contesting this at this point. So if Santa's like, "Hey, you're a good guy, but you're an independent contractor," so what does that look like? We go to a hearing. What are we looking at?
Well, first of all, before we even get, is a Santa Claus state fund or self-insured? But we'll assume it's just a regular state fund, and we're not dealing with that. So, Greg, with when we're doing independent contractor versus employee things, we have to look at the context. So, is this a construction contractor, independent contractor dispute, or is this like somebody just doing some kind of regular job? If it's a construction independent contractor dispute, we're going to do the 20 factors.
Right. Yeah.
If it's just somebody working like a regular job type situation, it's the level of control and the manner and means of control of the work that the person is doing is a big part of that analysis. But we're also going to grab in, because there's a lot of the things in the 20 factors that are helpful in distinguishing whether somebody is an employee or an independent contractor.
Yeah, and I don't think we should go through all 20 factors because it's boring on a good day.
Yes.
But so manner and control. So that's basically, so you and I, we're claimants attorneys. Rudolph's our client. We're wanting to push that Santa or the Claus Corporation had direct control over the manner of the job and what he was doing.
Yeah, the degree of control, and that's what we're going to look at. And I suppose we could take something that's similar is like truck drivers,
right?
Because Santa is a sky trucker. In a sense.
Right.
So.
Okay, yeah, and the first thing I look at for trucking, and we get a lot of trucking claimants, is who owns the truck. So here, presumably, Rudolph doesn't own the sleigh, doesn't own the harness. I guess he owns whatever enables him to fly, which I don't really understand. Yeah. But I think the fact that Santa owns the sleigh is probably going to be held against Santa and is good for our client that this is an employee.
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
And honestly, if it's deemed as being a trucking situation, that's kind of the whole ballgame. And that's the only point I make at hearings for truckers is who owns the truck.
Yeah.
So that is interesting. So I would say Rudolph's not choosing where they go. Santa's probably choosing where they go, right?
I assume,
I guess we don't.
the good and bad kids, and yeah.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. Santa makes the list.
Yeah.
Rudolph doesn't make the list.
Yeah.
So he's at the head of it. He's kind of more of the headlight than he is the steering wheel.
Right.
So it seems like Santa's probably choosing. So I think that again will determine or will show that Santa was in control. The timing of it. I mean, Rudolph's not choosing it being Christmas Eve and Christmas morning.
No.
Santa's choosing that. Obviously, all the gifts in the going to houses, leaning on roofs. Again, that I guess actually where you land might be Rudolph's. That might be Rudolph's choice as the head reindeer.
I mean, you're as to how they land on the
How they land, yeah.
And that might be an argument that Santa might make is like, well, we didn't choose; it was Rudolph. But again taking it back to trucking. It's like when it's a trucking company, Acme company, they're saying go to Walmart or go to Costco. They're not saying okay, you got to pull into the bay this precise way. And similarly, like it's not like Santa's dictating precisely, and that's the definitive decision as to whether Rudolph's an employee or a contractor.
And the point I have to make in hearings when this comes up is sometimes for these jobs, there's really only one way to do it. So whether the boss determines the process or the employee determines the process, they're all coming to the same, there's only really one way to swing a hammer,
Yeah.
So my guess is the roof makes sense. Rudolph was going to land there. Santa wants to land there.
Yeah.
There's not really an answer on who controls that.
So one thing I can think of is, first of all, where the reindeer are paid, and I have no idea, like snacks or something, biscuits. But the other thing is, are they paid per house or is it like per hour? And that could be an issue for
that's true. My guess is it's kind of a deemed per job, and it's probably the entire world is the job.
Right.
Otherwise, I guess Rudolph would be advocating for more good kids than bad kids if he's getting paid by the house.
Yeah. It depends on what he's delivering to whom and how. Like if it's like one big thing versus you get an Xbox versus like 1,000 little gifts.
Right. Yeah, and paid by the job is generally deemed independent contractor.
Right.
So yeah, this isn't going to be a clean cut. I think decision, and this is going to go to hearing. Santa's going to have probably a decent argument, but I think we've got a decent argument.
Yeah, and then again, it's like. The issue with this kind of thing, the problem with Rudolph in this instance, I mean, they're both likable people, and so Santa is going to have credibility, and Santa's a nice guy.
Yeah.
So that's like the soft factor if they're in person, and then I'm assuming Rudolph is a nice guy too. So they're kind of balance each other out. But if Santa was a degenerate, that might not be good for Santa.
Yeah. If Krampus is the one that one of his I don't even know what Krampus uses. Yeah. One of Krampus's servants gets hurt. Krampus might be out of luck.
Yeah, because it's like or like bad Santa. You have whatever.
True.
Billy Bob Thornton coming in there drunk.
I ultimately think that it's going to be deemed to be an employee because this is clearly Santa's team. Santa makes the decisions. And Rudolph's just following directions. That's my guesses, but Rudolph might need to be a good testifier at hearing.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. I think so as well.
Yeah. And
what injury did he get, by the way?
I don't know. Got something stuck in his hoof or a sprained ankle. I don't know. And frostbite. There's a lot of options. Maybe his nose stops glowing. I don't know. That's
Yeah.
And the last thing that might be in Rudolph's favor is he might have good character witnesses because, as we know from the song, then all the other reindeer loved him.
If they loved him. See, the thing is, Santa might be like, guys, I need you to say X. And the reality is that happens.
Yeah, they might be worried about their job. They don't want to be on the breadline with Rudolph because they spoke out in his favor. So, all right. Well, we'll have to circle back to this one after we get the results from the hearing officer.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
All right, second client that came to me is one of Santa's elves. So just to give a little bit of background, Santa's got a whole team of elves. This seems to be established. They are employees because they work year-round. That's my feel from this. I don't think that's going to be an issue. So they work year-round, normal hours, but when Christmas comes, they have to work one long 24-hour shift. Christmas Eve, building into Christmas Day, getting everything ready. So there's going to be a labor employment issue with that. But the conundrum that our guy has, one of the elves, is he got hurt right before Christmas. The 24-hour shift hadn't happened yet. And his main question to me is, hey, I was going to get overtime. I was going to get paid way more on the 24th into the 25th. If I'm getting paid through the claim, am I getting paid more on that day?
Sadly, the answer would be probably, well, the reality is no. You're not going to get perspective. Like if you're working at UPS or Amazon and you get hurt in October or November and it's right before the busy season and you're going to get a ton of hours and you're going to get overtime. The reality is you're not going to get prospective comp going in the future what you would have made during that season. But there may be an angle where this might come into play, and the question I have for you is, this guy who worked there all year, this elf, did he work in the prior season, the 24-hour shift?
Okay, yeah. So if he worked there, if he'd been there for 100 years, because he's an elf, so he's probably had similar hours, similar pay, right? So what we're going to look at, and what the hearing officers are going to look at, the BWC, is not what were you paid that day, what were you paid on that long day, what were you paid for the entire year. So right, so we're looking at 8-hour day, 8-hour day, 8-hour day, 300 days a year, and then one day of 24 hours.
Yeah.
They're adding all that up, and they're dividing by, well, I guess it'd be week to week, so 40 hours, and then whatever. And they're dividing that by 52. So you're saying that the pay that he's going to be off is taking into account the previous year's 24-hour marathon.
Correct.
Okay.
And that's, so if you missed December 24th of this year, so if you worked last year, that 24-hour period is going to take an account into this calculation. But mind you, it's all those weeks divided by 52. So, and why is this relevant? Because sometimes, like let's say the elf was scheduled to get a raise. In addition to this 24 hours, he was going to get $100 extra per day or whatever. So the reality is, in workers' comp reality, they're not considering, you would have gotten a raise, or would you? They don't. They're only looking back.
Yeah. So I think the worry would be, he's getting paid all year. He's getting paid based on a 40-hour week, and then he was expecting to have an 80-hour week or 64-hour week. It's going to be split across the 52, so his average pay is only going to be slightly above 1 week. So he's if he only misses about a week of work, he's going to be out of luck. He's not going to get that bonus from working that extra time, because that extra 24 hours is split out over the entire year's worth of average pay.
And let me add, and that's for what's called your average weekly wage, but it would have a big impact on your full weekly wage.
Yeah,
that would be sad.
That would be rough, because you were expecting to get paid basically triple, but they're going to look at your previous 6 weeks where you were working just a normal, boring 40 hours a week, and they're going to say, well, that's what your full weekly wage is. So that first 12 weeks that he's off, he's getting paid based on his just before Christmas time.
Yeah,
and that's an issue with some of our clients who work for these box companies, delivery companies. They work normal hours, September, October, November, suddenly they're getting slammed. December, slammed. So maybe they're working extra hours, and if they get hurt right before that, they're not going to get that built-in overtime.
No, and so just a reminder, first 12 weeks of comp, you get 72% of what's called your full weekly wage. And the full weekly wage is, not to go nerdy in the details, but essentially it's the first 6 weeks prior to the injury. But switching over after the 12 weeks, if you're off longer, then it's going to switch to your average weekly wage, which would be all your wages divided by 52.
So what would probably be best bet for this elf, not that he wants to get hurt, is if he got hurt right after Christmas. Because at that point he's expecting to only work normal 40-hour weeks, but he has in that 6 week window this 1 week where he worked overtime. Yeah. So he's going to actually get a little bit of a boost if he gets hurt right after. Yeah. So bad luck for our guy that he got hurt right before Christmas.
Yeah.
And then real quick before we move on is, what if this was his first year? So he got hired in January. He's worked normal hours all year, gets hurt right before the big day.
Again, simple answer, he's SOL.
He's out of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's... I mean, I guess we'll look at what job he had the previous year.
Right.
Maybe he happened to make big bucks at that job, and that'll make up for it. But I don't think for our guy. So if you get hurt right before a big overtime week, we feel for you, but there's nothing that we can do because you didn't actually work it, and we can't just tell the BWC, the hearing officer, well, they were going to work it. They would have made this. Because what if he got sick? What if he took the day off? What if he got fired for cause? There's too many what ifs.
But there's always a little twist there too. As Greg knows, we get situations where somebody's taking care of a loved one or something, and they've only worked a day or something, and they would have made X number of dollars or something. And that's where you get a lawyer, and that's our job to get substantial justice without getting you a windfall. Is the legal term.
So give us a call if you're an elf that got hurt right before Christmas. All right, and then we'll wrap up soon. So I got maybe a simpler one. What if Santa himself gets hurt? So I mean, is he an employee? Is he a one-man company? I guess we'll put it this way: if he is a one-man company, can the owner of a company get workers' compensation?
Yeah, absolutely. And if you're a one-man company, you should get workers' compensation. I highly, highly recommend you get coverage for yourself.
Right. So that's what when you call us and you say, "Hey, I'm Joe Smith. I own Joe Smith Company. I got hurt." First thing I ask is, "Well, do you have workers' comp coverage?" Because whether you have employees or don't have employees, you need to have workers' comp coverage.
Yeah, and that's kind of a great situation because it's not great that you got injured, but it's good that you have coverage because then you're going to the hearings and you're not going to hire somebody to fight against you. So it's only going to, you know what I mean?
We had a scenario a couple years ago where a guy got hurt, and it turned out that his boss, the owner of the company, was his wife. So what often happens is they get tired of their claim. They say we want to settle, and we say, well, the owner of the company has to sign off on this, and they usually don't want to. That guy found a way to convince his boss to sign off on the settlement. So that one worked out for him because it turned out that his boss was in favor of a decent settlement for him.
Yeah, that would have been sad.
All right, so Santa, if he has coverage, he'll be good. I think he's not going to be out of luck just on making sure the job gets done, but I think he'll have coverage. If he manages to get back home, he's got a bum knee now. He's probably got 11 months to deal with it, so he'll probably be all right. My question is that I'm worried about is Santa presumably lives at the North Pole, goes to all 50 states, probably other countries. We don't know how it works. Gets hurt in Ohio. Does he have a workers' comp claim in Ohio?
Yeah, so that's a jurisdictional issue, and the issue is what's the appropriate place to file this, and the issue is will the state take this up as a workers' comp claim? And we run into this quite a bit again with truckers. And so there's a legal analysis that you make.
Yeah, there's three factors: is do you live in Ohio? Do you work in Ohio? Or was the accident in Ohio? Sorry. And then the other one is, were you expected to be in Ohio for a long time? That's kind of vague. I think the general standard is 90 days.
I believe so.
Right.
Yes.
It's actually it's a confusing statute rule because it's all kind of double negatives. If one of these applies, then you generally are deemed to have workers' comp coverage. If Santa lived in Ohio year-round, I guess a Scott Calvin situation from the Santa Claus, he lived somewhere, whatever state that is, so he would have coverage there because he lives there. I don't think Santa in our situation lives in Ohio, so that's a knock against him. Injury in Ohio makes it to where he probably has a claim, or if the company works in Ohio. Santa's a one-man company. I guess mall Santas, they're in Ohio part of the year. So does he work in Ohio? Sort of seems like it. Maybe the BWC wouldn't view that. And then the real question, though, is he in Ohio for a long time? Christmas is only one night.
Yeah.
He's obviously not going to be there for 90 days.
Yeah,
so
it's going to be a problem.
There's going to be a problem. And I'm curious what you think here. And again, this is a unique niche legal situation we've presented. Is for regular contacts, Santa's here every year, like clockwork. So he's going to be in Ohio. Yeah, he's only there for an hour, but he's there every year for hundreds of years, planning to be there hundreds of years in the future. Do you think that's maybe going to be you have roots in the state?
I don't know. I think the law says that that's not part of the law, but the issue is the law is a mutable thing. It changes. And so this is one of those things where the claim would be denied, and then it would be a right to participate. You fought to court. They'd make the same thing. You file your appeal, and then ultimately you would end up the appeals court and then the Supreme Court. And is the Ohio Supreme Court going to make some kind of weird exception that's like traditionally you're here X number? I don't know. And to be perfectly frank, the Ohio Supreme Court just is generally business oriented and they're fairly conservative, which that's neither a bad thing or a good thing, but they certainly make decisions that are business oriented. So would they make this exception for this weird rule for Santa? I don't know.
Yeah, and this might be a Miracle on 34th Street situation of, do they just feel emotionally obligated to allow Santa's claim?
Well, in the optics of, Ohio Supreme Court Justice denying Santa Claus's that might not be good for their chances of getting reelected.
Yeah. Every state in the United States has different rules. So we always worry that they live in one state, they got hurt in Ohio, but they were just passing through, and we say, hey, you might be better off you file in another state. Some states have more restrictive laws, so some people are kind of statuted out of filing a claim anywhere. I get the feel that Ohio in those situations wants to allow a claim if they think they can make it work. And I think the problem Santa might have is he doesn't have a connection to any state. If it's not Ohio, so he might just be out of luck. So he might be filing this at the North Pole in whatever international body.
The other thing is Santa Claus Incorporated might say all injuries that occur in the delivery of gifts, Santa Claus has jurisdiction in the North Pole. And that happens. Some of these trucking companies have jurisdictional requirements in, like, for example, Iowa or Kansas or whatever. And why do they do that? Well, because they're more favorable for trucking companies.
They go where they like the walls. Yeah.
So then you're stuck with filing it in that state. Some states, like Greg says, are more restrictive, more liberal. Illinois, if you're going to get injured in Illinois. Yeah. They're very generous. Otherwise, don't get injured in, like, for example, South Carolina. Yeah. They're not. So.
Yeah, Santa would probably be out of luck in a lot of those states. Yeah. My ultimate advice to people like Santa is, where do you live, and which state that you're closest to can you get this allowed in? Because otherwise, Santa's coming back to Ohio once a month, and now he's got expected to be here just for treatment purposes.
Well, that's true as well. Because then if it's denied or you're trying to get some allowed, you might be able to, like, we've gotten treatment in wackadoodle places in the world, and wackadoodle states in the United States, and wackadoodle countries in the world, and I'm like Kyrgyzstan and Turkmenistan or whatever, in like Alaska, Hawaii, but it's never easy. And then the other thing is, if you're trying to pursue a condition and the condition is denied administratively, well, you're not going to file it in the court of common pleas in Juneau, Alaska or whatever. It's going to be wherever, Franklin County. So you're going to have to fly at some point. If you have a case, you're not going to be zooming into your jury trial. You're going to have to get a hotel and whatnot.
Yeah. So that's going to be another thing he wants to keep in mind is where do I want to treat? Because I'm going to want wherever I treat to be the state that this is being adjudicated in. That's our general advice. So hopefully he has a safe time next week and he doesn't have this problem. But if he does, he's going to need to call a workers' comp attorney. So if you're in a similar situation, I'm sure a lot of you are relating directly to Rudolph, the elves, and then Santa himself. But make sure you give us a call. Give a good workers' comp attorney a call, because if it's a unique situation, you're not going to have an easy answer, so you're going to need somebody to talk to.
100%.
So, all right. Well, that's what we have for you today. We hope you all have safe holidays. If you have any other holiday-related questions, make sure you let us know. We'll make sure we do that proper research and we get another video out for you. So we hope you all have a lovely Christmas. Thanks.
Merry Christmas, folks.